Well, check it out, y'all. We got what you need. We're all living in apartments, condos, vans. Well, dude, even you can have a studio in a box. Yes, we can help you with that right here at Blind Knowledge. We work on your budget and we figure out your measurements. We'll get you the best sound for the best price. Let me know, 877-237-1143 or at blindknowledge.com. Yep.
Specters all around me, living in stark, blazing the dark. One by one, pictures gather round me. Where those moonflowers used to lost no more. Specters gather round here, living in stark, blazing the dark. Night by night, stare into the black where moonflowers used to grow.
Welcome back once again, everybody, to Paranormal, the New Normal. I am your host, Jeremy, here as always, trying to make the world seem a little more normal. Does it ever happen? No. God freaking fucking no, it never happens. But you know what? It's not supposed to. The world's not supposed to be normal. Otherwise, it'd be boring and we wouldn't want to live in it. So that's my theory, at least. But you all know how I feel. Let me introduce my guest tonight. Once again, I bring you another amazing guest full of mystique and mystery. John Lawyer, spiritual guide and seeker. How you doing tonight, John?
Doing great, Jeremy. How about you?
I get the podcast. It always makes my night better. It always makes my night great. So nothing like talking to somebody else and just hearing their point of view on the world. That's, to me, is magic. It's really magic to hear this type of thing. And especially with this conversation tonight, I have a feeling it's going to be something special because spiritual people are just, when I started this podcast, I expected to talk to everybody just about Bigfoot and cryptids and ghosts and never thought I'd really get into the spiritual side of things. And then 170 episodes later, guess what most of my episodes are? So I fell in love with the spiritual side of things. So gotta love it. But let me ask you this question I ask everybody on this show. What got you into the paranormal spiritual world? What drove you down this path?
You know, for me, I love that question because I wasn't on the spiritual journey. I think that we're always on a journey, even if we don't know it, but I didn't know it at the time. So I was laying in bed with my wife one night. She was asleep, and I just kind of had this massive moment of understanding or clarity. People call it awakenings. People call it a lot of different things, but the universe just made sense to me. I felt this oneness of everything, that we're all connected, that we're all kind of saying the same thing, whether we're talking about philosophy or religion or science or extraterrestrial. We're all kind of saying we're painting with the same shades, the same color palette. And I thought, regardless of what we believe, maybe we could all talk about it more closely together and ask better questions, find better answers. And like I said, it just all came to me in a moment.
I love that. Okay, well, one, I agree 100% with you on the fact that I believe in fate. I believe the universe weaves our path for us before we're even born, and the universe knows what we're supposed to be doing. So yeah, I 100% agree with that. And I mean, I've yet to truly have my spiritual awakening. I've been told I'm in the process of it, but it's taken its damn time. And I am like, come on. It's like if it was a pizza, I'd be getting it for free by now. But it's just, I've been told I'm on the path of it, but I have yet to truly have it. And I'm dying for that moment to come because I can't imagine what it feels like to just all of a sudden, I won't say understand everything because that's a very stupid thing to say because no one understands everything. But
exactly.
But how did it feel to finally at least have a better understanding of the universe? I'll put it that way.
It was a very warm feeling. It was comforting, and I had been in such a bad place for such a long time prior to that it really helped me. I'd always been a positive person, but I'd been stuck in a bad place, even though I was a positive person for a long time. If that makes any sense. So yeah, it felt great. It was, like I said, it was very warm. It was very, it was deep, but also simple at the same time.
Actually, you have no idea how much that makes sense to me because I've always been a good person, always have been, but this last 6 months have been like the worst 6 months of my freaking life due to things outside podcasting. And I mean, I've been told spiritual awakening is usually brought forth by chaos in your life. That's usually what brings forth the awakening. And I'm like, okay, well, I've had enough chaos now for like 5 of those 6 months. Let's go. Let's go. Like, just give me it already. Like, I know the universe wants you to be patient and wait for your turn, but still, it's just, they drive me nuts. But, and I guess the second question I ask everybody always is, have you had any experiences with either, I mean, for you, I would guess it almost would be spirits, but we also accept aliens and cryptids and all that fun stuff too, if that happens to come up.
I've had some interesting experiences in my life with I I think I had some stuff in my house growing up. I'm pretty sure. Uh I'm from Oklahoma, and when I was growing up, when I was a kid, I was pretty young. It was one of my earliest memories. I used to see like an owl person. They call them Staginies in Native Americans.
Oh,
And I used
oh,
yeah, I used to see one outside my window, a shadow in my room. I kept talking about it. My parents actually got me blinds, put me blinds up in my room, and it went away. But um, that was probably my earliest experience with something that was like other than normal. And
uh, well, it's funny you say that because I mean, the owl is often associated with extraterrestrial too.
mhm, that's true.
So
Yeah, it's such a diverse creature as far as like its meanings, right? It covers such this wide range of importance in different cultures.
it truly is. I mean, they're mysterious birds. I mean, there's a whole conspiracy that birds aren't real and that they're really just government security drones. But I don't really put too much banking into that theory. Well, co-host of mine on another show puts a lot of banking into that. But I mean, I don't know. The owls have such a significance to extraterrestrials and being in the same basic area when extraterrestrials visit people. So I don't know. A lot of people see owls before they get abducted and stuff like that. So I mean, but yes, the Native American side of it is really large too, as far as owls go. So who knows what you really were experiencing? I mean, as a kid, I wouldn't expect you to remember it now, but it'd be
Yeah, no, I can still picture it, but it doesn't. I was really little. It was like I said, it's one of my earlier memories.
which, yeah, I mean, early memories. I mean, I don't think I even have any early memories before like 5 or 6. So I mean, yeah.
Yeah, that's about when it was probably.
So you said you had this awakening. So what are your spiritual beliefs nowadays that since you've awoken?
I kind of have two parts of it. The first part is I'm a universalist or an omnist, so I believe in the validity of all like human thought, philosophy, religion, spirituality, whatever you want to call it, even atheists and scientists. So I believe it's all valid. I respect it all, and within that umbrella, I have my own particular leanings. I subscribe to kind of the more pantheistic universalist side of Hinduism, like the Brahman and that universal connection with everything. I really appreciate the contrast of uh, the light and the dark of Taoism, and that line in the middle that we walk in between, and also that some of the indigenous Native American and other indigenous beliefs that we aren't in nature, that we are nature, and that we're very young beings in the scheme of things that are on this planet in this universe. Humans aren't at the top of that pyramid of uh, like metaphysical evolution of things.
Oh God, no. We're towards the bottom of that freaking pyramid, for God's
Yeah,
sake. I mean,
yeah.
we're nothing in this universe compared to what else is out there, at least in my beliefs as well. But I mean, I don't want to say
Yeah.
I don't want to think people think I'm stating fact here because we don't know. That's the point. We don't know, but we do know there's more than us out there, and that's the scary part is that we know that, but we know nothing more.
Right.
But I mean, see, ever since I was atheist for a long, long time after I got out of growing up religious, and I recently became more agnostic. Well, not recently, like 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, I became more agnostic of it, everything, and I there's something out there. I said, there's something out there. What it is, I have my theories, but I don't subscribe to any one theory. And this show changes my mind on that theory every freaking time I do an interview, because everybody's opinion makes me think like, what is really out there? And it's just, that's why I love these conversations, because it just opens up my mind to more things that I don't know. And for anybody to assume they know all this is just, to me, stupid. I mean, for lack of a word I don't want to say on my show, but I mean, it's just stupid.
No,
I
I resonate a lot with that. And that's actually my core belief, is that we don't know if we're right. We might know ourselves and know our true self, but because I know something doesn't mean that it's the same truth for someone else. And
exactly.
And so I think we all have this very unique path, and that like what you believe can inform things for me, but I'll probably have a different perspective or mindset on it.
Now, my other question is, because I was reading your bio at one point, I'm like, I kind of got to ask, like, because you have an interesting past as a human as well, and I mean, you were a warrior in a lot of places that people in America don't go. So I'm kind of curious, like, how do you go from being a warrior in these countries to being like a spiritual person? Because I mean, I don't want to think that none of these people are really spiritual, but I mean, it's kind of different sides of the spectrum in a way.
No, it is. You don't see a lot of spirituality in the military, and U.S. military, Western military industrial complex. For me, I like I said, sometimes you're on a journey, you don't know it. I was on a journey. You know, as growing up, I'd always wanted to go to the desert. I saw Lawrence of Arabia and wanted to do that, to be Lawrence, you know. And it's one of those be careful what you wish for situations, because I ended up, you know, I joined the Army before 9/11. It happened about a year after I got in. And so I would end up spending most of my young adult life, the first 12 out of 15 years of my adult life, I would spend in the desert in Kuwait, Baghdad, and Kandahar, Afghanistan. And I was in counterintelligence. I was Army counterintelligence special agent, and I loved my job. And I back then I was very idealistic. I believed in what I was doing. I believed in the mission. I believed in making the world a better place, as far as I saw it through the lens of the U.S. patriot. I don't subscribe to that anymore. And I saw that the longer I was part of that machine, that dark machine of the military industrial complex, the more I came to see the humanity and the people that we were fighting against. I saw it chew up people like me and my friends and my brothers and sisters in arms. It just chews you up and spits you out continuously, you know? And so I think that experience was valuable in so many ways. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about the world. And when you're a part of that darkness too, the good thing about it is you're able to see light, and understand the balance in between. Now there was a long road of overcoming trauma and PTSD and anxiety and depression after, but you know, that darkness really helped me see the light.
Well, I mean, okay, well, I don't really go into my military views on this show or any show, but I will say I respect those who serve, and thank you for your service, of course. I do respect those who serve. I am not a fan of the military complex overall because of the ones leading it, but that's a different story completely. And the people who are serving are not in charge. So they're just doing their job, which I respect that. But I got to ask, Kandahar, have you heard of the Kandahar giant?
I've heard of the beast of Kandahar.
Okay, my curiosity just got freaking shot to like 11. I want to know we're talking about the same thing with different names, but
I've not heard of the Kandahar giant though.
There is a picture that has circled the internet many, many times now, and I've heard people on podcasts tell stories about it from when they were over there. Supposedly, the U.S. military killed an actual giant in Kandahar.
Oh, interesting.
Which I mean, I don't know.
I must have missed it.
It's
Yeah,
it
no,
it was
I did.
mid to late 2000s, I believe, but
I I was over there 2000. I was over there 2008 to 2014. I spent 6.5 years consecutive in Kandahar. I was there for a long time, but
jeez.
I did
Yeah,
see I
uh,
did see what I thought was a spaceship in Kandahar. Uh,
would not surprise me at all.
Over the
But
airfield once that I was almost positive it moved. Moved almost like a flock of birds. Um,
hmm.
and it might have been a flock of birds, but it didn't quite seem that way. It definitely wasn't any. I spent a lot of time on Kandahar Airfield, so I saw a lot of aircraft, and it didn't look like any aircraft I'd ever seen.
Well, I mean, one, a UFO over a military base is nothing that's unheard of. I mean, they love
Right.
to watch our militaries all over the world and see what they're doing. I mean, or they're just visiting people they know there, but that's a whole nother theory. But I mean,
Right.
well, at least in the US, I would bet more on that than anything. But that's, I mean, it may have been like a camouflage type thing they had for their ship where it was supposed to look like a flock of birds, but it wasn't exactly functioning properly that day. Maybe I don't know. It's who knows these things. But the Beast of Kandahar, I'm kind of dying to hear about this.
Well, that's a if you look on open source media, the Beast of Kandahar was a unmanned aerial vehicle. Allegedly, it was an unmanned aerial vehicle stealth UAV drone that was stationed in
Oh,
Kandahar.
okay.
Yeah.
See, I'm expecting like a whole cryptid story here, and not what I was expecting. But I mean, well, I just actually had a guy on last night who has supposedly seen Jinn. So I had a long discussion about that last night with this guy, and
Uh,
I mean,
I
Jinn are a thing over there. So
I love the Sufis. I really appreciate the mystics, the Sufi mystics in Islam. In the whirling dervishes and Rumi. I really love that aspect of spirituality. Actually,
yeah, I mean, they're actually very spiritual in the eastern part of the world. They really are. They're more spiritual than we are in the western part by far. I mean, people want to call Christianity and all its sects spiritual. I kind of have to shake my head and be like, no, you don't know spirituality, and if you think that's spirituality, but singing the same songs every week and saying the same psalms every couple months is not spirituality. It's just you're being told what to do by a mass head, and you're paying to do it. So have fun with that. But I mean, in
yeah,
my opinion,
dogma,
at
right?
least,
Yeah,
exactly the dogma of it all is just good Kevin Smith movie. But the dogma of it all is just I mean, I I have my own views on religion too. There's people on the show have heard me say my reviews on religion. I don't need to go into it again, but I'm not a fan of organized religion for most part. I mean, I guess I should probably change that nowadays because I do. Okay, yeah, actually, no, I'm not going to change it. I'm not a fan of organized religion. Organized spirituality, I am perfectly a fan of, and that's to me acceptable. But organized religion, where you're paying someone to talk to you, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I did that for the first 18 years of my life. I'm really good. I've been there, but I mean, it's have you, so did before we move on, I just want to ask, did you see anything else weird while you were over there in all those different locations you were in?
uh, yeah, I was. We were walking home one night with my wife from the embassy. We were walking back to the trailer in Iraq in Baghdad, and a desert jackal crossed our path. That was kind of a. It was late at night. It was something that just happened. It was kind of it was almost like an omen. I forget what was going on. Something happened, but it almost felt like an omen. Uh, so
Well, I mean, a jackal over there. I mean, I guess that's the same as a black dog or a shuck in England or a black cat in America. I mean, same type of
yeah, I think
mythology,
so.
I'd say.
Yeah,
But yeah, and I mean, jackals are pretty normal over there, if I'm not mistaken. Like they're pretty common.
yeah, they're around. Yeah, they're not completely uncommon.
I
And
mean, they're basically like the
but you know,
coyotes of the Middle East.
yeah. The only other strange thing, the strangest thing, you might have seen it on the news, but when we invaded Iraq from Kuwait, I was in Kuwait. I was at Camp Doha at the time, and I don't know if you remember that massive sandstorm that slowed the advance to Baghdad that came in.
Well, okay,
Uh,
when 2001 happened, I was in 7th grade, so I don't remember too much about
okay. So that okay, I got you. I'm dating myself. But
A little bit.
anyway, we were the U.S. military, the Marines, and the Army were marching from Kuwait to Baghdad through Iraq, and they just had to completely stop because this massive sandstorm happened, and it was between Baghdad all the way down into Kuwait. And I mean, you couldn't when we walked outside on Camp Doha, you couldn't even see your hand. It was one of the worst sandstorms I'd ever seen, and I've been in a lot of sandstorms. And I think it was interesting that we were invading Iraq, and we actually literally had to stop our advance, and there was this historic sandstorm at the same time. I've always thought that was pretty significant.
Which makes you think for a second, like, are there some other forces at work here, whether it be some
Sure.
kind of gods or some kind of maybe even jinn? Maybe there were some, I don't know,
Sure.
maybe you guys were near an ancient jinn spot where they would basically hang out.
I mean, they were literally driving through like on Nasiriyah, Najaf, and Babylon, like literally like driving tanks through Mesopotamia. So
I mean, that's some ancient stuff right there. So who the hell knows? I mean, there could be creatures that still live there that are immortal since the beginning of time. I mean, who knows? It's just it's interesting. It really is. And I don't know. I still have yet to bring someone on my show who is a expert on all the cryptids and weird things that happen over there. And I want to find like a native who knows all this stuff, but it's hard to.
right.
I haven't looked. I'm not gonna lie. I haven't looked too hard to find one, but I want to find one. It's just one of those things I hope I come across one day, and if it's meant to happen, it'll happen. Is my opinion. But kind of curious because I know you started a community yourself. I believe it's pronounced, and please correct me if I'm wrong, the Kishar Spiritual Community.
That's correct. That's right.
Oh, yay! I got it right.
You got it right.
So, what's the story behind that? And well, I guess I'll start with how'd you come up with the name for it, and when did you start it? I guess I'll start with that.
Yeah, we formed it back in 2022, and we just started our online portion this past fall. And we came up with the name. We figured name's really important, right? And
Of course.
So Kishar is the Sumerian goddess of Mother Earth, Gaia, and the name also represents the line on the horizon, which we think kind of beautifully encapsulates the journey that we're all on. And I think that that was the foundation of it. My wife and I formed it together with another friend of ours. My wife was actually almost the whole time that I was in all these war zones. She was there with me. We had the same job and did similar things, and we actually worked side by side all those years. And so she has a very similar experience.
Oh, that's beautiful. I mean, when you first said like that, your wife was there with you when at one point with the jackal thing, I was like, they let you bring your wife to war? And I'm like, that's unheard of. And I'm like, oh, okay, if she was in the military too, that makes sense. But
yeah. We actually got married in Kuwait. We've been married 20 years. We got married in Kuwait. Our wedding certificate's in Arabic, actually. But so and a friend of ours also is a co-founder, and she grew up in the Balkans during the wars there, and we met her in Afghanistan. She ended up going to Afghanistan to work as well. And we wanted to create a place that we figured that even in this modern digital age, there's still room for authentic, meaningful human connection online. And that we can have good conversations just like you and I are having right now. We can have that in a community that's not Facebook or Instagram. It's smaller. It's kind of walled off from advertisers, from trolls and noise. So it's peaceful and calm and quiet. And it's a place where people can talk to one another. They can just lurk and watch other people talk if they want. And like I said, ask better questions about, well, what do you believe? And what do I believe? What's my journey? What's your journey? And we can be students, we can be teachers. And even if we have different spiritual practices, religious practices, philosophy, or whatever, we can sit or stand side by side and have a meaningful practice.
Okay, I mean, that's actually kind of beautiful in a way. I mean, to find any type of community type thing nowadays that's away from trolls. And I mean, the internet's a freaking hazardous waste zone of just people looking to destroy other people. That's all it really is. And
Yeah.
I stay off social media for the most part, besides podcast related stuff. I mean,
Right.
I don't even share memes anymore just because I was sick of the trolls when I did. Like, God forbid I share something I think is funny and everybody else think it is like, oh, that's wrong. I'm like, no, I found it humorous, but okay, whatever you want to believe. It's not my place to judge you for believing that. But so I mean, it's nice. I mean, and of course, you're not the first person I talked to that started a community like this, and I think that's the future, kind of. I think we are going back into a smaller community type world. I mean, especially with everything that's going on in the world the last month, especially. I mean, between North Korea and Russia and the United States, it's just things are getting scary again, Cold War almost style. So
Yeah, I think there's space for it. I agree. I think that the internet can move back into a positive direction if we just kind of take back a little bit of control ourselves and make some choices about where we decide to spend our time and our energy.
well, that's the thing. I mean, if you don't want to get hate on by trolls, people, I mean, leave that community, leave that group on Facebook,
Right.
leave that chat group on Twitter, wherever you are where you're getting trolled, like just leave that or block people that are trolling you. I mean, it's simple enough.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
just,
even I met a lot of people from all the way back from high school, but all my different places I was in the military and as a civilian overseas. I know all these people, and I love all of them, but some of my brothers and sisters in arms I don't necessarily agree with for whatever reason, or that it's just too noisy. So there's always that on Facebook. There's always the unfollow option where you're still friends, but they don't even know you're unfollowing them. So you're still connected. But yeah, we have choices about how we consume, what we consume, and I think we can definitely navigate it in a way that is healthier for us.
exactly. So I got going back to this community you created.
Sure.
So is that the end goal of it, or is there something bigger you have in mind for the future for it?
I mean, we're putting together physical, spiritual retreats as well, so we can kind of have that direct human connection integrated with it over time. And it's really my idea is to, hey, where is this audience at, where we can kind of find people that kind of are open-minded but willing to talk to other people of different views. And I think that if you want to accomplish something, you could be a driven professional, you could be a stay-at-home parent, it doesn't matter, anything in between. You could still want to be aligned in your mind, body, and soul, and find a group of people that also want that, but aren't going to tell you should do it this way or you should do it that way. They might help you out if you ask for help or whatever, but it's not anything that's like we were talking about earlier with dogma or anything like that. So I think that's the goal, my goal and the goal of the co-founders, these two strong women that helped me with this, is to help people help themselves and do our part to make the world a better place, kind of give back to the universe.
I mean, that's the point of it all. We're supposed to give back to the universe after it, because the universe technically birthed us in a way, so we should be giving back to it in some way or form. And I mean, my way personally is this podcast, because it lets people such as yourself speak their piece and educate other people on what they believe. And to me, I've been told by psychics and mediums, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is my purpose. Whether that's true or not, I'll never know, or I may know when it's too late. But still, to me, it feels right. So I keep going and keep trucking forward. And 170 episodes released and 200 episodes recorded. It's never going to end. So I'm good with that.
It's amazing. And the thing about that is beautiful. What I see beautiful about what you're doing is, what your purpose is and you're living it. So you're aligning your purpose with how you're living. That's an amazing thing. So many people don't do that. I mean, I work with people quite a bit on that. How do you align your purpose? How do you know what your purpose is? And if so, do you align that with what you're doing every day with, your life? And I think that's an incredibly powerful thing to go live your purpose.
It really, I mean, if it truly is my purpose, then I mean, I want to say it is, but like I said, I will never know truly if it is or not, unless something speaks to me and tells me that it is. But I mean, it may have been speaking through these mediums, but I don't know. I'm the type of person who needs to be told something directly. I can't be told through people and expect to believe it. But and I'm a self-doubter 100% of my life. But I mean, I love it. It's just my way of giving back. And I randomly joined a pop culture podcast, and then they just said, like, you need to start your own podcast for something you love talking about. And I was like, paranormal. And like I said, it wasn't what I expected to be right off the bat. I did not expect to be talking to mediums, psychics, or anybody in the spiritual realm, really. And it just kind of all happened. And I'm like, after a while, at first I was kind of like, why is everybody that is willing to come to my show mediums, or why are they psychics or clairvoyants? And no offense to previous guests, because I love you all, but it's just once I got like 30, 40 episodes in, I was just like, all right, you know what? These I have learned more about myself from talking to these people than I've ever thought possible. So this is the right thing to do. I'm learning who I am. I'm learning what I'm meant to be. What I'm meant to be. What my future may hold. So I mean, fuck it, let's do it. I'm down. I want to know this information, and now it's almost like a drug to me to talk to people in the spiritual sector. It's like, what am I gonna learn about myself tonight that I didn't know already? Because these mediums come out of nowhere with just like all of a sudden they have these things to tell me, and I was like, how did you know that? It's kind of creepy, but how did you know that? Because nobody knows that about me. Like, it's just, I don't know, it's magical in a way, and I love it. I love it. But
Yeah, it's about, to me, that's, you know, it's being open to the universe. When you're open to the universe, amazing things happen. And like, if you're, you know, there's all this stuff out there. If you're in receive mode, then you can see it. You're prepared for it a little bit. And you talk about it's almost magical. I feel very much that magic is this natural thing. We call it supernatural, but in reality, I think magic exists. I mean, someone walks into a conference room and they can turn the energy from bad to negative, you know, or from one way to the other just by walking in and out of the room. I mean, how's that not magic?
I agree. And I mean, the term supernatural, it technically, I mean, it is natural. But same as paranormal, the reason we call it supernatural, because it's things we do not completely understand yet. And
right,
like like my podcast is always in the top 3 of the science podcasts on Good Pods. And people ask me all the time, why are you in the science category? I'm like, because the paranormal is the science of the unknown. Science. That's literally what paranormal means. So I technically it is science in a way. I mean, it's just unknown science. It's just stuff we can't prove Bigfoot exists, but we fully believe he does, and they do. I'm sorry, I keep gender shaming you, Bigfoot. I'm sorry, but we know they exist. Most of us do anyway. We are willing to admit they exist because there's enough proof of it. But just because the world doesn't want to admit something doesn't mean it's not true. I mean, look at what just got released today with the Epstein list. But yeah, we won't go into that. We will not go into that. This is not a political podcast, but I just had to bring it up. I had to bring it up. So you are also a spiritual guide / coach. So how would people benefit from one-on-one sessions with you? Because I mean, I've talked to plenty of coaches and guides before, but what about what's unique about your services? Sell yourself, man.
Yeah, I love it. I think for me, it's still part of that giving back. And also I can tell people I've been there. I've seen trauma. I've experienced trauma. I've had depression, anxiety, PTSD, OCD resulting from my time overseas. I've stared into the abyss of insanity. I've seen it. I was there. I didn't quite let go of the cliff and fall in, but I saw it. And I think when you've been part of this darkness, because I didn't just see the darkness. I was in the military. I was in the U.S. military industrial complex. I was part of the darkness. And people like, that's a weird selling point. Well, I think the thing is, I've seen this darkness. It helps me see the light. I can see that gray line in between that we can walk. And instead of choosing to look at the dark, we can choose to look at the light. And I also have modalities and methodology to customize what works for each individual person based on their experience, obviously drawing from my own universal life experience. And I think it's about, again, aligning that mind, body, and soul. And I'm very much interested, and our community is also interested, not just in being spiritual, but we live in the real world where, most of us aren't going to go live in the monastery in the foothills of the Himalayas,
Mm.
and as such, there's that real important intersection of our spiritual path and this real world we walk through every day. And how do we do that? And it's about being centered and grounded in your health and wellness, your fitness, your personal relationships, your finances, your sleep. There's all this stuff that if you're centered and grounded there, then suddenly you have more space and time to be spiritual, and you're more aligned in your mind, body, and soul. So I think I think holistic gets used a lot, but I think it is, there's a reason that it's important, because it really is all this stuff that has to kind of fit together to help someone live. What I'm really interested in is them living a joyful life and living a purposeful and fulfilled life. And whether they're a driven professional or, like I said, stay-at-home parent. The thing is, I've been a stay-at-home person. I don't have kids, but I have dogs. And I've also been a driven professional. I worked 110 hours a week for 12 years. And I lived a whole lifetime before I was 35. And so I've been that driven professional that was 100% dedicated to their job and nothing else. And so I think that, I guess that's me selling myself, saying that I have some context to, if I can help someone know that they're whole inside, even if they can't see it, know that they have light inside, whether they know that it's there or not, then maybe I can help them get through the desert or through the swamp faster than I did,
Exactly. I mean, you teach from your own experience, and they'll figure it out faster than you did. That's the purpose. I mean,
Right.
I try to. I mean, I hope that my podcast reaches younger listeners out there, which it has to some degree. But I switched platforms and lost that stats. But we were reaching out to some, I believe it was 16 to 21-year-olds, and some 21 to 22 to 30-year-olds a lot. And I want people like that to hear this podcast. So I want young people to hear this podcast so they realize there's more out there in the world than just going to college, just getting a job. There's more out there than that. Like, yes, those things are very important. And if you feel like you're supposed to go to college, for God's sake. I mean, I'm not going to tell everybody they have to go to college, but if you feel like that's your path, then follow it, please. Because college is great and does things. It didn't do anything for me, but it does things for other people. I mean,
Right.
college was a disaster for me because I just couldn't figure out what the hell I want to do in my life. And see, if I had someone like you back then, I would have been able to figure it out maybe. But instead, I wasted 7 years taking classes that I don't barely ever use. So yeah, but
Right.
some people need college though. Some people need that order. Some people need that instruction to get them to where they need to go in life. For me, I could have saved a crap load of money and not gone. But still, I mean, okay, I'm not gonna lie. I learned things about business in the first college I went to, and I graduated with 2 degrees. So I got something accomplished, but unfortunately they're associates. So they don't do shit in this day and age. So, it is what it is. But and crap, you said something in the beginning of that I kind of agreed with completely. Don't want to touch on, but oh well. Either way. So moving on though. I see you work with unconsciousness, like a stream of unconsciousness, and I love that because I do that sometimes during the day. Like, I'm just messing around my phone. Like, I'll sit there and just mess around my phone and just kind of no purpose, just messing around, trying to open my mind, and just see what comes to me. And like, maybe it'll be a new idea for a podcast special. Maybe it'll be something special to do for my wife. I don't find that enough, but according to her. But I mean, it's just I like the idea of unconscious thinking, of like not having a purpose and just like kind of like going through the void and trying to figure out what you're supposed to be doing at that moment. I've spent many hours on my video game or my TV on pause, just looking at my phone and being like, "Oh, 3 hours has passed. Oh well, I'm gonna go do this now because that's what I just figured out I should do." Like, so what is your views on like a stream of unconsciousness, whether it be writing or just sitting there on your phone? Either way.
Yeah, I think for me, like if you're doing unconscious thinking and things are coming to you, I think that's a really good thing. It's almost like mindfulness kind of in a way where you're just like absorbing things as it comes and kind of sometimes I talk about mindless thinking, yeah. And I think it's this powerful thing because we don't always have to be going. And so I think that's really powerful when we're not having to have racing thoughts or do something that's super intentional. I think that it's sometimes okay to do the opposite. And then sometimes when I talk about the stream of unconsciousness, what I'm talking about with that usually is more of that society stream of unconsciousness that's pulling us into the status quo. Like it's pulling us to do. I see that. I don't want to say that's a negative thing, but I think that if we're just going with the flow of society, we're not deciding who we are as individuals, because we have all this stuff that we're told from the time we're kids that we should do this or shouldn't do that, or have to do this or can't do that, or it's all this stuff that we've been told by our parents, our teachers, our friends, our coworkers, our bosses, and all these tribes, right, that compete for our attention and tell us that we have to be this. And so I think that when I talk about stream of unconsciousness from that perspective, what I'm talking about is stepping up out of it and kind of looking around and seeing the color of the world, seeing the vibrancy within yourself, separate from that pull of society.
Which I agree with completely. I mean, I used to be the opposite of that. I used to think, oh, TikTok's stupid. I used to think people who are on Facebook spilling their life stories are stupid. Now, I scroll through. I mean, I'll scroll through TikTok still to this day, just because it's TikTok. But I'll scroll through Facebook and like I use my old Facebook account that I used to have before I had to take it down for personal reasons. Like I used to have a lot of followers, so I would see so many random posts a day. It was ridiculous, but it started getting to me. I started just spending hours. I mean, at work sometimes, but hours just sitting there reading like random posts by people that like I only somewhat knew because of their name and see them on Facebook. And it's just like I learned to appreciate things from different aspects by viewing how all these other people started viewing things. And it makes you realize, like, I mean, yeah, it's having an open mind, but it's also just you're seeing the world through different eyes. And that's kind of the one benefit of social media I'll give it. I don't think social media is good. I don't think it's an improvement on society, really. I mean, yeah, it could help if someone loses a wallet. Oh, it may help them find the person who lost it faster. Yes, there are benefits like that, but overall, social media is kind of a downfall for society because we stop doing things that are, I don't want to say useful, but we stop doing things that are important, like educating ourselves, reading. We even stopped like watching documentaries and stuff like that, or just watching whatever's on TV or watching the news because, oh, this person I know from Facebook is having a bad day. Let's read what they say. And I mean, it's mind opening at the same time. I mean, I don't know. I hate social media because of the people that abuse it, the trolls, the scammers, the fakes, like the women that try to get money off people by using it. I mean, I'm all for OnlyFans, ladies. I support OnlyFans 100%, not with money, but I support it mentally. But I don't have the money to support it. But I mean, I know OnlyFans workers, and I support them fully. If that's what you got to do to make money, and if you're happy doing it, then God bless you. Men like me, thank you for your service. But I mean, it's just that's the way I see it. I mean, like social media has its more downfalls than I guess upfalls at this point. But I mean, it's just I don't know. I mean, the world. I don't know which way this world's going, and things lately just have been very dark for this world. And I've been told there's a bright light coming through in a few years, but are we going to make it to that light? That's my issue with the world.
Yeah, I think. No, go ahead.
Oh, please. I was going to say, as a military man, what's your opinion on all this stuff going on in the world?
Yeah, there's a part of me I try to I'm not in politics anymore, and my job, I had to kind of understand geopolitics for my job in counterintelligence, and
of course,
I've always been so invested in geopolitics and been passionate about discussing it, and I still follow it to an extent.
I mean, how could you not?
Yeah, right?
In this day and
I'm not
age, how could you not?
right. It's hard to just be completely separated from it. I believe that we all have kind of very unique perspectives on where the world's at from a dark light perspective. I think it's very individual. I think overall, I have great hope and faith in humankind. I think we're going to be okay. I think we've been okay for a long time, and I believe that there's always going to be strife. There's always going to be darkness, but there's so much light out there that I think gets ignored by what you were talking about with social media and mass media. And I don't think it's some kind of conspiracy or everything. People always talk about all this stuff out in the world. I think that Madison Avenue and that whole Mad Men, the advertising, marketing, sales complex that we see coming out over all these years is very good at what they do, and that's been co-opted by consultants and media to give us certain messages. And I don't think it's a conspiracy. It's just kind of just is what it is. And so I think we're okay. I think there's a lot of good going on out there that we don't see, that we don't notice. And if I go talk to my neighbor, regardless of what I believe, regardless of what he or she believes, we probably have 90% in common. Like, we want healthy children and healthy communities and safe communities, and we want to be joyful and all that. So why do I want to get into an argument with them over 10%?
Exactly. I mean, it makes sense. I hate bringing things back to pop culture. Well, actually, no, I don't, but I love doing it. But it kind of something like that reminds me of like that King of the Hill second or third episode where he meets Khan as his neighbor, and they just kind of start, like, they realize at the end of the episode they have more in common than they think. And
right,
it's that but it's a good point for the world. I mean, just because someone's from a different culture than you doesn't mean they don't have a lot of the same issues and a lot of the same problems that you have. And yes, they may dress differently, they may act differently, but they're still a person at the end of the day. That's what matters. And they still are going to be worried about their family. They're still going to be, like you said, they're going to be worried about their jobs. Like, every human has basic needs at the end of the day, and we're all just trying to meet those needs and possibly get a few wants in there as well. But that's hard to get by nowadays, especially the way prices are going up. But I mean, that's the scary thing with this world, is more than anything, is the dollar value is so freaking low that it's just, I mean, when it will cost me $50, $60 to get a package of steak that used to cost like $20, it's freaking sad. Like, it's just sad. Like, you can't even eat good steak anymore because it's too expensive. It's just sad. Like,
yeah.
I mean, this world saddens me and stuff like that. But and there's solution. Let's make steak in a lab. No, I'm good. I don't want no genetically made steak. I'm freaking good. Either butcher damn cow or don't sell it. Like, God damn it. I mean, God help the cow. They're nice creatures, but still, I mean, it's just, I don't know. A lot of things about this world scare me. But once again, I'll say, as a military man, I would kind of be possibly shunned by the paranormal community if I didn't ask. What do you think about extraterrestrials? As a military man of many years, many years, what is your theory on extraterrestrials? Because I'm sure you might have, or you might know something we don't know, and you might not be able to say it, but what is your theory on them?
That's a good question. Well, the first thing I will say on that question, I don't get asked about that very often, but since you asked, I will say that my counterintelligence partner when I was stationed in Kuwait, way back when, was Luis Elizondo. So I've known Lou for over 20 years.
Why do I know that name? I know that name from somewhere. I just can't place it.
He was he was the Undersecretary of Defense at the Pentagon that came out with all that stuff a few years ago.
Oh, okay. I know I knew the name. I just couldn't place it.
Yeah. I used to work a project with him in Kuwait, a special project. But anyway, I believe that there is definitely stuff out in the universe that isn't human, that is sentient, that behaves in a way. Because I think trees are probably just as sentient as we are, but I think there are other stuff out in the universe that behaves in a manner similar to humans. I think mathematically it's got to be almost certain to have occurred. Uh, I I think that the U.S. government could potentially, obviously, in other world governments, could potentially be obviously knowledgeable of this. I will say that having worked in the government, it is really hard for the government to pull off conspiracies and um, things of that nature. So it can exist, but it's going to be at a level that's so high, so beyond
Well,
anything that I mean, I had really high security clearances in the military, but it would be so far above that
I
that
mean,
like X-Files type stuff, like
I was gonna say that's. I mean,
yeah,
everybody knows that extraterrestrials and the governments have some kind of agreement that it would
yeah,
be the smoking man from X Files level,
yes, yeah.
like
It
12,
would have to be that,
12, like 10 to 12 people in the U.S. government know about it, and that's
yeah,
it. And they're
because
not telling nobody.
because the U.S. Army, the U.S. government is both really good at what it does and really bad. And both
Mhm.
those things can be true at the exact same time. So it would have to be a super small group of people. But I like if I mean, one of my favorite shows in the world is the X-Files. I adore the show. And if you told me that that's true, I would sit here and be like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Oh, I 100% believe. I 100% believe the X Files is based off of insider information from the government that was given to Chris Claremont. But I 100% believe that because I mean, there are certain shows that touch on things and they touch on them in such a way that I can't believe the government doesn't have like a. There's got to be some connection there between the government and the show because I mean, certain shows just are too close to what I believe is the truth in the world. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't doubt that in the 80s, 90s, there was a smoking man in the government who was in the back room at all these deals and knew what was going on and just played his part.
Yeah.
This, I mean, it's self-preservation. That's all it is they're playing the part for self-preservation at the end of the day. But still, it's just, I mean, and yes, the government is really good at what they do and really bad at what they do. I mean, we all see who's president now, Sleepy Joe, but I am not a Biden fan. My audience knows that I'm not a Biden fan at all. God, I mean, Trump is no fucking saint, but Jesus Christ. I mean, it is what. And he only was on the Epstein list for one flight. Just saying, people, he was the lowest number on the freaking list. So, yeah, Chris Tucker was over there more than he was. But I mean, it's just rant over. But I mean, it's just the government definitely is hiding things. I've heard enough stories from people who were in the military, like anonymously saying on other podcasts that, yeah, I mean, we interacted with things that we can't explain. We saw things we can't explain. Area 51 is not the real place. There's an Area 52 and 53 and 54. There's multiple locations around the U.S. government. But yet, I had a neighbor where I used to live that actually he worked for the government in aeronautics. And he said to me one night we had a blackout. There was like a brownout or a power surge or something, and he was just like grilling, and we were talking while I was outside just wasting time because there's nothing else to do. And he's like, "Yo," and he was telling me about his job. He's like, "Yeah," he's like, "I've been to certain bases in the desert I can't talk about or tell you where they are." And I'm like, "Okay, I wish you could tell me a little bit more about where you work." But I mean, there are definitely things out there the government does not want us to exist, and I am 150% believer in extraterrestrials because I've heard too many encounters. I mean, the government admitted UFOs are real. The next step is
Sure.
just basically saying, yeah, there's been extraterrestrials on Earth since the beginning of fucking time. They created us, like the Anunnaki, the reptilians, all the other ones I can't think of the name of at this moment, but they created us. Like there's like 6 or 7 different species that were supposed to be the founders of Earth and help either bring humans here or clone humans or create humans. There's multiple theories.
Yeah.
I don't want to pick one, but I mean, I 100% believe in extraterrestrials. There's just undeniable proof at this point. But and the government, I feel like, knows things. I mean, I don't know if you ever heard of the Valiant Thor.
No.
During Eisenhower's presidency, supposedly him and the Pentagon were visited by an extraterrestrial who was a Norse extraterrestrial. He looked like a guy from Sweden or Finland or pick a country over there. And he was a Norse extraterrestrial, and he was called the Valiant Thor. He supposedly stayed with Eisenhower and went back and forth between Eisenhower and the Pentagon and was trying to convince the world not to use nuclear weapons. And he was trying to warn us, like, if you use nuclear weapons, that we can't be responsible for what our people do. And a lot of people believe that's the reason that we never actually nuked any other countries and why no other countries nuked us, because he made us basically sign like a treaty type saying like nuclear weapons are out of the question. I mean, that may get broken by now because it's been, I think Eisenhower was in the 60s or 70s, so it's been 50 years at least. So who the hell knows at this point? Like, they could forget it ever happened at this point, but there are actually pictures of him sitting on a stage while Eisenhower's talking into a mic. And Eisenhower's daughter has come out in recent years and said that she met him and he was real.
Oh, wow.
So
that is interesting. Well, Eisenhower's a smart guy.
I mean, he was. I mean, DDE. He really was a good president. A lot of them more back then. Nowadays, it's more of a social media presidency almost, and it's kind of sad. But they're not as elegant as they once were back in the World War II era, Cold War era. I mean, now it's a joke. Now it's a joke. Almost.
It's a much more it's a much more produced product now. Yeah, it's a much more highly.
And I mean, I always say, who cares? Because the government. I mean, the president has no real power. I mean, he can't declare war without getting approval from like 5,000 other people. So I mean, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we declared war against North Korea supposedly, but who the hell knows if we really did or not, or if it's just a media thing to make Americans get strong again. I don't fucking know. And yeah, we blew up ships. We blew up ships supposedly. I don't know. I'm not there. I don't know. But I don't trust the news for 1 second. I don't believe anything that's said in the news. But because that's just the way you have to live nowadays. Because all these different news stations are telling you different sides of stories, and they're trying to get you to sway to one side or the other. And it's just ridiculous. But which is, I mean,
yeah.
I keep saying, wait until the next big pandemic, and it'll be Bigfoot that's real, not extraterrestrials. It'll be Bigfoot that's real. Maybe they're related, maybe they're not. I don't know. I'm not an expert in any of this, but well, actually, okay, I kind of am an expert in some of this, but I mean, I don't know I'm not an expert in the government. No one is, and that's another thing I believe the government knows exists, and they've known existed for a long time, and that's Sasquatch. I mean, which I gotta ask, as a military person, do people in the military actually talk about Sasquatch, like the idea of it being real, and like, as anyone ever said, like, oh yeah, the government has them in this facility. I mean, I'm sure names,
I mean,
but
so when I was a soldier, I mean, I was in a unit that was just a bunch of counterintelligence special agents sitting around with top secret security clearances, and we talked about pretty much everything. But everything's so compartmentalized in the government. You know, that whole need to know thing, that you can have a really high security clearance, and if you don't have a need to know, then like shady things happen in the military industrial complex.
oh god, yeah.
I've seen some shady things happen in my career that you'd be like, that shouldn't happen. Stuff disappears, things disappear, stuff that you knew was there, and you go look for it, and it's not there anymore. That stuff's happened. But and that's another reason that if it's if stuff like that is happening, and it very well probably is, it's happening at such a high level that it's way beyond anybody's reach.
Well, I don't know where you are from originally in the United States, or if you're in the United States now, I don't know. But I don't know if you're from the West Coast, you may have heard of the Olympic Project.
I
It's
am not
a
familiar with it. I'm from Oklahoma originally.
oh, you did say that. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, you did say that. So yeah, I mean, the Olympic Project is a area of national forest, basically on the west coast of Oregon, and I believe Washington State as well. That people aren't allowed to go to a lot, but I mean, Small Town Monsters got to film a documentary there, and it's basically believed to be a protected area for Sasquatch.
That's where I want to move. I want to move to the Olympic Peninsula. That's where I actually want to go live.
Well, you are going to be in their freaking home territory then, and I mean, Small Town. I talked to a couple of different members of Small Town Monsters on this podcast, and I gotta get more of them on. I really got to reach out to them again. They were great guests, but they talk about how on the Olympic Project there are literally what they call Bigfoot nests, just these big circular areas where it looks like Sasquatches use them for beds because they're all flattened down and broken sticks and trees all around them. It looks like a Sasquatch like nesting habitat. So
I mean,
I feel like the
it's a-
government has to know about it if that's the case.
I mean, probably, you know, and like what humanoid creatures can do is pretty impressive. I mean, look at what humans do. And there's no reason to believe that if Bigfoot exists, that it's not highly intelligent. And I mean, even in Afghanistan, like I looked at the way that they moved water around. They don't do aqueducts. They have these underground systems called carezes, and they're like underground aqueducts that they dig down, and then they dig tunnels that move water about, and then they can move about these tunnels if they're dry. Really interesting system. You know, showing that humans are completely capable of being tunnel creatures if they want to be. So that just came to my mind when I was thinking about, like, you know, these other things out in the world that we don't know if they exist or not for sure, because there's no, you know, evidence or whatever. And if there is any evidence, it's suppressed. That's just my thought on, like, that comes to mind. There's all, you know, humans do amazing things. So why
Oh, they
can't
do.
other species do amazing things?
See, I'm along the wavelength of either, in my mind, either Sasquatch or extraterrestrial nature, or they've been here since before we were, or since we were. Basically, I mean, I
Sure.
don't know. It all goes back into what we believe we came from and where we came from. But I mean, the idea of Gigantopithecus, like being a Sasquatch back in the caveman days, and then supposedly humans killed out Gigantopithecus. Jesus Christ, saying that's always hard. But supposedly Homo sapiens killed that out. But what if they decided, like, all right, these guys hurt us. They're over here. Let's go this way and just freaking hang out in the woods. Like, let's go
Right.
deep into the woods where they won't find us for thousands or hundreds of years, and let's just go that way. And I mean, there's stories of Native Americans trading with Bigfoot or having their women and children kidnapped by Bigfoots. I mean, the amount of stories in ancient history about Bigfoot is just freaking ridiculously like long. Like, it's just,
And
I don't know.
every
I mean,
culture and every culture has it, right? Yeti, Bigfoot, you know, Sasquatch, whatever. It's
Sasquatch in
Jersey,
America.
Jersey Devil, you know, it's everywhere.
Oh, okay. Well, Jersey Devil's a little different. A little different. That's one of those. Jersey Devil's almost more folklore, I'd say. But I mean, Sasquatch is America. Yeti or abominable snowman, much as I hate that fucking term, is like Tibet. The Yowie in Australia. Japan has their own. China has their own. I mean, Europe has hairy men, I think they call them, and I mean the Middle East has them too. They don't talk about them as much because they're not. I mean, I think they're rare out there because of how dry and humid it is, and there's not really forests like that in most parts. But I mean, Africa has them. Africa 100% has them. I gotta start looking people around the world talk about cryptids more.
I lost your audio. Can you hear me? I can't see.
That should be better.
All Oh yeah, I got it. I got you.
Headphones decided to die. Damn battery. But yeah, I mean, there's these creatures all over the world that no one can explain, and it's just like, what? How can this thing exist if no one can I mean, I don't know. I feel like people have to know about it, otherwise it's just like and yes, Moose Man, I agree with you. ET, take me. I don't want to be in this planet anymore. Fucking take me. But take me, my wife, and kids, please. I want to stay together, but take us.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just, I don't know. Sasquatch is, in my opinion, 100% real, and there's too much proof otherwise. And I can spend all night talking about Sasquatch or about dogmen or any of these topics, but which, I mean, it's actually funny because I'll say this real fast and then I will let you speak your piece before we wrap up. But I had one of my first guests. He was in the army as well. He was in Egypt at one point with his fellow soldiers. And one of his fellow soldiers saw a statue of Anubis, an Egyptian god. And
Right.
He started freaking out, like, what is that? What is that? And they like explained like what it is to the Egyptians. And he's like, I saw that same creature in my backyard in New Orleans when I was a kid. I mean, literally, when this guy said to me 2 years ago, almost like that story. He told me that story. I mean, this guy had a lot of great stories about being in the military and seeing things he probably shouldn't have seen. But when he said that, like, I literally almost jumped out of my chair. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And of course, his fellow soldiers saw a Rougarou / dogman / werewolf a couple times as a kid in New Orleans. So, I mean, there's a whole mass of stories out there. Not even stories, but legends, or I guess tales of these creatures that we can't explain, but there's yet thousands of sightings of them. I don't know. Even if 75 to 90% of those sightings are fake, what's the other part? They're not all fake.
Yeah.
They can't be. People don't lie like that, but it's not some mass lie that we've been told to tell. Like, it's something that's been seen since the beginning of time for almost, like, I mean, all right, I'm going to go to the Bigfoot thing before I freaking spend an hour and a half talking about Bigfoot. It's just, I don't know. I mean, well, I was going to say, I fucking forget, but I don't know. I lost my train of thought on that one. Thank God, because it's probably a good thing I did. But just so many sightings of things that we shouldn't see, and yet we do. And I mean, I had something I did want to say. I had another person in the military I want to talk about, but I don't fucking know. Oh, okay, yes, okay. So I had this other guest on, and her father and her husband were military men. And her father would tell her stories about how during World War II, he was in the Navy, and he fought a battle on the high sea, of course, where velociraptor extraterrestrials were fighting for both sides of the conflict. Literally, I mean, I had to tell you this because it's one of the most outrageous things I've ever heard in my life, but I want to believe it because extraterrestrials can come in all shapes and forms. Who the hell knows? But I might explain where the dinosaurs went. But I mean, when she told me this, I literally was shutting back at me like you could hear me in the podcast, literally like just gasp for air for like 30 seconds and be like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Really? Really?" Like, I was beyond excited because it's like one of the most outrageous things I ever heard in my podcast, but it was also like one of the things where I'm like, that almost makes sense. And I'm like, in some degree, that kind of makes sense in the paranormal world. I mean, I don't give all my episodes away, but still, like, it was just things like that like I've had a lot of different people that with military, either military history themselves or their family members, and military people seem to know these things that like or experience these things that no one else does, and just almost makes me wish I was in the military, but that was not my path. I 100% fucking know that since I was in high school. That was not my path, and I don't ever want to be my path because I'm good. I am, especially nowadays, I am really good. But still, thank you for your service. You did something that I could never do, and I respect you 100 fucking 10% for that. But tell these people, okay, before you tell them where they can find you, if you can give my listeners one message to live by, what would you tell them?
I'd say slow things down. We have more time than we think, and don't chase perfection in this world. It probably doesn't exist. It might exist inside of you, some divine thing inside of you, but it doesn't exist in this world we walk through. So don't try to be perfect. We have more time than we think, and take care of yourself. Love yourself. You'll be all right.
Wow, that is fucking beautiful. I loved every second of that. Every freaking word of that you said, I was like, yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. Like, and I need to slow the fuck down tonight. But where can they find you? Where can they find your group, the Kashmir Spiritual Community? Where can they find all of it if they want to find out more, or possibly even take a look into joining?
Yeah, our main website is kishar.org, KISHAR.org, and that's the entrance to our community. It also has all of our social links, and we have a pretty cool YouTube channel as well they can check out. And if they have any questions, they can definitely hit us up, and we'll get back to them.
Well, there you go, folks. And of course, his links will be, of course, posted for all you listeners in the podcast description if you want to just click and go, because we're all lazy nowadays. So they'll be there for that. And I want to thank John for coming on, because this has truly been a amazing conversation, minus my 10 minutes of ranting at the end. But you guys are used to that, so you'll live. And I think you enjoy my rants. I really do. But
I absolutely enjoyed it. It's a good conversation. I appreciate it.
I'm telling you, if I can ever get like the highest ranking person in the military on this freaking podcast, I will go for 5 hours straight with them. I swear to God. So many questions. So many. But all my listeners, all my watchers, thank you. Like and subscribe, please. It helps. And you know where you can find me. If you don't, check the outro. Shame on you for not knowing, but you can check the outro and find out. And I will be back next week with more paranormal interviews. And yes, your one-on-one brackets are coming back soon. I think I have a couple lined up for this show, but wanted to get some interviews in there because I haven't done a massive interview streak in a while, and I miss talking to people, just talking, not doing brackets, which are a whole different thing completely. But thank you all for listening. Thank you all for watching. It's always a pleasure to bring you entertainment like this, and please go check out John's site. Maybe he's what you need in your life. Maybe he can help guide you in the right path. I don't know. I'm not your parents. I don't know. But and I'm sure your parents don't know either, so don't go ask them. But as the great one once said, parents just don't understand. And with that, I'm ending this. Have a good night, everybody. Like that. You can find me on Facebook as Jeremy Bryant, or you can find me as Uncensored, Unapologetic, and Untamed UQ Podcast Collective Facebook group. You can find me on Twitter and the Instagram as @JuggaloBastard, or should I say X now. And you can find me on TikTok as @JuggaloBastard Podcast. You can also find me on YouTube as Paranormal The New Normal. And you can also find me streaming on YouTube as Blind Knowledge Network, because all knowledge is blind until they admit Bigfoot exists.